Hey guys, how you all doing? I just want to start this video by saying July has just been a brutal month for me, which is why I've not made a single video in that time span. Now, typically I don't love it when I click on a video that I think is about Elden Ring PvP, and immediately that person starts talking about like what's happening in their personal life. But I think this is a little bit different because I made the video thumbnail and probably title really stupid and like kind of a joke. So if you clicked on this expecting to see like a Rofo build video, let me just be upfront. Like this isn't that. This is like all footage from one build. The point of this video is really just the absolute saga of what it took to get my my feline friend back from the depths of a goddamn ravine. But anyways, I do want to make sure I'm not coming across too harshly here, because I do acknowledge that like behind every single content creator is a real person. I think the only exception to that rule is probably only waifu. I don't think there's a real person running that account. But, you know, I'm not trying to say I don't care about what's going on in your lives. I just always find it a little bit strange when you click on a video that's like titled, "This weapon goes crazy," and then the first 5 minutes that person spends like telling a really inane story. So I'm just gonna tell you the inane story up front. That's the point of the video. Nothing about this build is super unique or original. If you need more information on this build, it's a Strength Arcane build with some int. It's at rune level 168, so it's not like builds really matter. You can kind of do whatever you want. I also made a very similar version of this build at rune level 94 that I've just now taken up to 168 to play the DLC. Anyways, the cat story. Some of you may be aware that I lost my cat around like late June. I made a YouTube community post, which I rarely use, just to be like, damn, I lost my cat. I haven't done anything with the DLC because I've been looking for my goddamn cat. And I really appreciated all the comments on that, because they were all really encouraging. Just all these people sharing their stories of them losing their cats and then like them finding them like many days or even weeks later. And that really gave me a lot of hope at the time. So this is kind of like the follow-up to that, because I felt like I left a lot of y'all hanging. And just kind of wanted to follow up on what happened with that. So to start things off here, I live in a 2-story apartment building. Actually there's 3 stories, but I live on the 2nd story. It's a very small apartment. There's really just like 2 rooms and a bathroom. My cat is a rescue. He was a stray for like about 3 to 6 months before we adopted him. And he is a little gremlin. He never really wanted to go outside. I would open the door for him all the time to like the 2nd floor hallway, and he like never really wanted to go outside. But so one night my fiance was coming home, actually from walking in her graduation from her PhD program, and so she had all these bags of all of her like her caps and gowns and stuff like that from all the ceremony stuff. And she opened the door, and our cat like kind of freaked out and ran out the door, which he never does. And then he kind of ran to like the edge of the hallway, because our hallway is like closed on one side, but it's open on the other, where there's this railing that goes like that just looks out onto the parking lot. And so he runs to the railing, like looks back at my fiance, and then like jumps off of it, and then like disappears into the parking lot, and like just disappears into the night. So we spent all night looking for him. It was terrible because I was like just so worried about my cat. But it was kind of nice in that like everyone in our apartment building turned out to like look for this cat. Like everybody was like checking under cars, and everyone had flashlights, and there had got to be like 16 people out looking for like this one cat at like starting at like 11 p.m. on a weekend, and we like people were still out there looking like when we were out there still at like 2 a.m. It was like kind of the only interaction I've had with the people in my apartment, who are usually like a little bit unfriendly, but everyone was super nice. Odd to feel like a sense of community with these other people who had just like studiously ignored us and everyone around them for the last it's got to be like 4 years, I want to say. Yeah, I've lived here for like 4 years. So, but like that's kind of par for the course for grad housing. It's a bunch of like socially awkward nerds who are very smart, but like not super social. But anyways, all those people turned out to help us, and we could not find our cat anywhere. I stayed up all night. Not all night. I think I slept 2 hours that night. And then I got up at like 5 a.m. to go look by the roads to see if like maybe he had run away and got hit by a car, and you know, maybe his body would be on the side of the road. But while I'm out there, I see like 3 coyotes, which also bodes extremely poorly. And these coyotes also like did not give a shit that I was there. They just kind of stared me down, and I like got within like 20 feet of them just walking these paths, and they just didn't care that I was there. So I was also kind of like disturbed by that. I'm like, okay, my cat's like not, his body's not by the road, but like these coyotes are like clearly looking for something to eat pretty close to my apartment complex. So even with all these people searching, and like we're out there the next 3 nights, and there's still like 4 to 5 people out there every single night still looking for our cat. Like, it's not even their cat that's missing, it's our cat, and they're helping us look. But we couldn't find him anywhere. Every single article I read about like where do lost cats go is that they stay close to home, but like we had checked every single bush, we checked underneath people's cars, we got underneath people's cars and like looked like practically into like the nooks and crannies of their cars. Like we couldn't open them because they're not our cars, but like we were checking absolutely everywhere. The entire time my fiance's like, you know, I bet he's in the ravine that's next to our apartment. I found that a little bit more unlikely because it's not super close. You would have to like, the way he would have had to have run out is he would have to have gone around a building and then into the ravine. And he like took off into the night in like the opposite direction of the ravine. But that was always like my fiance's hunch. It's like, oh, he's in the ravine. So after a couple of nights of unsuccessful searching, my fiance's mom is like, why don't you hire this lady who like owns a bunch of bloodhounds? And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? This lady owns a bunch of bloodhounds, and she used to be like a search and rescue person, and she has like this whole like online following where she goes and finds people's cats with her, or like other lost animals, with these like 3 bloodhounds and then also like a trained evidence dog. And it was expensive, but I was also just kind of like, I want to know if we need to keep looking, or if my cat's just like dead and the coyotes got him and he's a carcass at this point. And it was like really more about closure for us. But so we hired this lady. She drove like just under 100 miles to come, you know, look for our cat. And she brings out these 3 bloodhounds and this evidence dog. And the bloodhounds all picked up a scent, but never found the cat. And the evidence dog found like 0 evidence. Like it didn't find any fur, didn't find any blood, it didn't find a carcass or anything like that. But all of the bloodhounds had picked up the scent of our cat in the ravine next to our house. And they kind of picked up that he would like go up at night to these like other locations, this other apartment complex, and look for food and then go back down there. So she like was like, look, we didn't find your cat, but like it's likely that he's still out there if we're picking up his scent, and you can probably like still find him if he's just like hanging out in this ravine. And then we're like, well, what if the coyotes go down there and get him? And she said that the coyotes are really lazy, that they don't like to like go after things unless like they can just run after it in kind of a straight line, or like dig something out of like something just on the ground in front of them, but they're not going to like wade into this like ravine or like trek down to this ravine where it's going to be really hard for them to get to. So the other thing she taught us is like, you know, keep looking for like if the body of your cat shows up anywhere, which is a little bit morbid. But she also taught us how to look through coyote poop, which is not as gross as it sounds. Coyote poop dries up really fast, and then once it's all dried up, you can just like pull it apart, which is not that gross if you're wearing gloves. And I was like wearing my gardening gloves when I was looking for this cat the entire time. So I pulled apart a lot of pieces of coyote poop that was like along the road, and really only just found rabbit hair, which makes sense because there's a lot of rabbits near where we live, and that's probably what the coyotes eat. So we're looking through coyote poop. Oh, that she recommended that we get humane traps, which are just these little cages where like the animal walks in, they step on a pressure plate towards the back of the cage, and then the door just like gently closes behind them, but then like locks into place. So it's super humane. Like, animals can't really get hurt doing this. And it's not one of those like traps where like the thing is spring loaded or anything like that. It just kind of like shuts behind them. So we bought like 4 of those from a hardware store. We set them all up around the ravine. We got one into the ravine. We also, like, several times at night, like, waded in there and were like searching for things. And that turned out to be not very helpful because I think our cat was still freaked out, so it was not like he was going to come out to our calls or anything like that at that point. We also got super spooked because there was like foxes, other rodents in the ravine that we kept like thinking was our cat and would get our hopes all up, and then we wouldn't find him. So it was like, you know, we were doing everything we could, but still not really finding him at that point. Something was coming up to the traps and eating the food, but not triggering the traps. And we were like both like, that's gotta be our cat, which is kind of funny. I think we were just giving him way too much credit because our cat's really not that smart. I don't think I've said his name this entire time. His name's Finn. Kind of named after the Adventure Time character, Finn the human. He is Finn the cat. Anyways, he's not smart. He's not a smart cat. So I don't know why we were so convinced that he was the one taking the food out of the traps. What was far more likely, it was that there's like an opossum who's like a home was really close to the traps because we saw him around the traps a couple times. But anyways, we were kind of like really desperate just to like find him, keep our hopes up. Anyways, about the second night of like baiting traps, we're baiting the one in the ravine, which requires us to like kind of walk up the road and around to get to like the other ravine access point. And as we're kind of packing up all our stuff, I'm consoling my fiance, who's just like, you know, has been upset about this the entire time. I have too, but like, it's, she really took it personally because like it happened when she opened the door and she felt like it was her fault, even though that like couldn't be further than the truth. Like there's no way you can catch a cat if he doesn't want to be caught, you know? So we're coming back from baiting this fourth and final trap that's like way out there. And I'm just kind of swinging my flashlight around and I just like wave it over this like storm drain that I had checked out a million times, and there's my cat just sitting on top of that. And like I spot him and I'm like, holy shit, that's my cat. And he immediately jumps into it. I was like, okay, you little fucker, like get the fuck back here. So we get out of the tree and I like go over, and meanwhile my fiance is like sobbing because she's like, oh my god, I did not think we were ever going to find him again. And so I'm luring him out and he's like a little bit nervous, but he clearly hasn't eaten anything in 5 days. This is like day 5, by the way. I think I might have said that. Anyways, this is day 5. He probably hasn't eaten anything. I think he's just been drinking like the water in the storm drain. So I lure him out with a treat, and like he's like seems to be very happy eating this treat. And so I was like, okay, you know what, fuck it, I'm picking him up. So I pick him up and he's like totally fine. He meows a little bit and his tail is full of bugs, but we got him, right? So I'm walking back, and in the distance I hear all this yelling, which I think was just like grad students celebrating being done with grad school. There's all this yelling in the distance, so he starts to freak out a little bit. So I hold him a little bit closer. Then all these cars start to drive down the driveway, or like the road, to our apartment complex, which we're walking along to bring him back. So he's like now freaked out even more, and I'm holding him tighter, which, you know, cats fucking hate. So I'm holding him really tight, and he just like bites my hand really hard. He just like sinks his teeth into my thumb, just like that big fang really deep into my thumb. But I'm not letting go because like I just spent quite a long time worrying, looking for him. Like I spent a lot of money searching for this cat. I'm not letting go of him now. So he's just like sinking his teeth into me and like giving that really angry cat growl, while like just like blood is like streaming down my hand. So my fiance runs over and grabs him from me, and he bites her in the exact same spot on her right hand. So we're both like getting bit by this cat. We just like, I remembered that one of our neighbors had given us this like cat leash, which at the time I was a little bit like, I'm never walking my cat. If I find my cat, I'm never gonna like take him outside, so why would you give me a leash? But the leash was super crucial, because then I just like slipped it around his neck while he's biting the shit out of my fiance, and like cinched it so it wasn't like choking him, but just so it was on there tight. And so my fiance could kind of let him go, and she like held him a little bit lighter, and he stopped struggling. He was like totally okay. He like calmed down once we stopped holding him so tightly, because we just like didn't want to let him go. So we shove him in a bag, we get him upstairs, we let him back into the apartment, and he's like, he's still pretty freaked out, but he's fine. He's just like laying in his usual spot, like just flicking his tail, like he's really annoyed about something. We both kind of look at each other, and our like blood is just like streaming down both of our hands, and we're like, we did it, we got our cat. And then we're like, we should probably fucking go to the ER, because we don't know what that cat's been eating. We do know that he's been drinking like sewer water, or like whatever's been in that storm pipe, you know, just like drainage water. And he bit us both really, really deeply. So like we are probably have some sort of infection. So we both put him in the bathroom with his food, with his litter box, with his blanket that he really likes to hump. Despite being neutered, he loves humping this one blanket. It's weird, but we're kind of like, you earned it, buddy. Hump away. We just like put him all there just so he can kind of like decompress. Go to the ER. And then the ER is like, what happened to you? Like, oh, we got bit by our cat. And they're like, why are you here? I'm like, oh, they're really deep bites. And by this time, we've kind of cleaned it up with some like hydrogen peroxide, and they're kind of looking at us like, are you stupid? Like, how'd you get bit by your cat? It took some explaining. But they basically, because we got bit by cats, like by a cat, right? And other people were in there like, you know, with actual injuries. We didn't get served for like 6 hours. And so we got to the hospital at like 11 at night, and we didn't get served till like 5 in the morning. So we were just like up all night. Our phones had like both practically died. So we just kind of spent the entire time like talking about it and like decompressing from it all. And like, I know it's not that traumatic of an experience to like compared to like what other people go through. But this is like our first, like, this is like our practice child, right? This is like the first thing that we really have to take care of. It's a living being that has needs, and we did everything that we possibly could to get him back and make sure that he was safe. And it was like just those 6 hours sitting in the waiting room were like weirdly euphoric. It was just nice to like sit there and decompress and have like no other distractions, but just to talk to like this person I'm about to marry, and you know, talk over everything that we did and like how we did it, what we would have done differently. And we kind of both agreed there was nothing like to have done differently. Like the only reason we found our cat was because we like knew he was still in the ravine, and that was only because we like spent a bunch of money getting these bloodhounds out there, and then like followed through on that by setting the traps. Like if we hadn't done everything we possibly could, we simply wouldn't have found him. And I don't know if there's like any, I'm not trying to impart some like moral lesson here, but I guess I am, because I'm kind of just saying, you know, if you really care about something and you really care about like something in your life, I think you do kind of owe it to yourself to do everything you possibly can to make that happen. Because sometimes just like the motions, going through the motions of doing everything you can is like all you can do sometimes. And I think that's the only way to put yourself in the best position to get where you need to go. So anyways, that was the start of my month. Everything like from there like also was lousy. Like, a whole bunch of bad stuff happened to like me and my family. But at least I had my cat. And actually I'm really, really happy I had my cat through everything that's been happening in these last, this last month really. Finn is totally fine now. A little bit traumatized from his time in the ravine. We also found like so many ticks on him that when we brought him to the vet, they were like, you need to shave this cat. We're like, do it, shave him. So I'm gonna put a couple pictures of I think what he was like looking like at the time, which was just this like terrible, like the world's ugliest lion. But his fur's grown back in now, and he's looking more and more like his usual self. And he seems pretty happy when he's not biting our ankles. He spends a lot of time biting our ankles, and sometimes when he like bites me, I'm like, oh, remember that time you bit me really fucking hard after I rescued you from a ravine? But you know, he's a cat. He's just a little animal. So, if you're wondering why I've been away for the last month and haven't made like a single video about Shadow of the Erdtree outside of that very first one that I made, this is why. You know, been a lot of stuff to get to. I hope to make a lot more videos. I have like 3 builds going right now that like I've been invading with. Oh, I have like so much to talk about with like seamless co-op invasions. I just need to do more of them, but what I've been doing with them has been so fun. And I want to make my own video about that because that's been borderline revolutionary for me. I cannot wait to talk about that and make that video about that. But who knows if I'll get a chance to in the next couple weeks. I'm like looking ahead and just super busy at work, super busy in my personal life. The only thing that's like all set in stone is my fucking cat back home. I don't have to worry about him getting eaten by coyotes. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.